Good morning, everybody, on this stormy morning. The storm we weren't supposed to be getting up here. Anyway, what better thing to do than to distill some liquor down that needs to be done. And we will bring you back when it's all set up and ready to go. And we will keep busy today.
Okay, we've got the still set up, and it's just a regular pot still, working on the stove. And what we're going to be doing is distilling down our wash here. And the first, as I say, don't quote me on this, because this is the way we do it. So what you want to do as you're distilling, about the first 3 to 4 ounces is primarily methanol, which is great for gasoline antifreeze, paint thinner. Don't drink it. But once that's taken care of, then we'll be distilling down into the actual, what's actually drinkable, and you'll have, what's known as the heads, which is the beginning of your distillation run, and then you'll have the hearts, and then you'll have the tails, which is where your concentrations are getting kind of low. And at that point you can cut it off and then run it through a second process, bring it out to, well, by the time all is said and done with what we do, it's about 80%, and then you can blend back from there with all your flavors and everything else. But we have the still here, we have the coil, we have a water recirculation system that we've set up here, ice blocks, very cold water, and as far as recirculating it, it's a little fountain pump, anything that you get for your garden. They have other uses. And now we just let this come up to temperature. We should start seeing the still working at about 165 degrees on this thermometer here. At that point, just measure for volume, take our 3 to 4 ounces off for the volume we're doing here. Go from there. And now it's just a question of watching, waiting, and have a coffee as this whole process gets going.
Well, while we wait for that thing to really get going, I am going to take you along while I candle some eggs. They have been in the incubator for not quite 6 full days yet, and I'm starting to see some development, so I want to go through all 41 eggs and see how they're doing. I'll take you along for that. There's our incubator right there. We got that second hand last year, and it's the first time we've run it, and it seems to be doing just fine. I do what's called a dry hatch. I've had people tell me that, keeping the moisture in there a little bit lower allows for the egg to evaporate some of the moisture out of it, to give the chick more room to hatch, like move around when it's hatching. And also it prevents any water buildup in the air sac, because that is the first place that a chick opens up into to get a breath of air while it's hatching. If there's any water in there, the chick can drown as soon as it tries to hatch. So you don't want that. So I am running this, it's reading between 40 and 50% humidity, which is actually just fine. They often recommend 60%, but people say that's too high for chicken eggs. So we will take you into a dark room and do some candling. Well, here we are. Now, if you're wondering if it's okay to even unplug an incubator and open it up and whatever, think about how a hen works. She doesn't stay on there 24/7. She has to get up to go do her bathroom thing and her, go get some food and water. And often they can be off the eggs for a little bit. So it's said to be safe to open these up for about a half an hour at a time. And the cat wants out of the room. Okay, go on. And it's about as dark as I've got for a room, but what you want is a nice bright flashlight. And we will start going through. Now these darker eggs can be a little hard to see. This one, I don't know if you are able to see that on the camera, but there is a slight formation going on in here. You'll see it on a lighter egg, but there is something happening. I say this is a fertile egg. It is developing. We'll see on the next one here, it's a very light colored egg. There, that will develop into the chick's eye, right there, that darkest spot, if you can see it. There's a super dark spot in the middle of that. That's supposed to develop into the chick's eye, I believe. But you can just make out the veins. And you see how the same kind of formation at the bottom of the mass there is like the other egg. So the other one is good. So this number 2 is good. Now they recommend clean hands, of course, so that you don't leave anything on the shells that can contaminate them. Let's see, this one looks a bit less likely, but it could just be a little bit behind things. So there's one that may be questionable. That's already going to mark on it because I could not see where the air pocket was. So I had to really look. Oh, these eggs are very dark, but that one looks to be developing. It's one of my nice green Easter eggers. So we will go through all of these. I'll probably speed up the film. Sometimes you have to look from the top of the egg, and you can, I don't know if you can see it on there, but I am just making out the blood vessels that are formed there. So this one's definitely good. That's it. As you can see on this one, well, maybe you can't quite tell, but this one does not appear to have any development. Oh wait, yes it does. There is a vessel forming. Now I'm just turning it there. You can just make that out, I think, in there. Some of them can be really hard to see. That shows you a very good view of it, I think. Possibly. We'll see. We'll see on camera. Well, it would appear that I think there's about a half a dozen in there that are either questionable, or I can't tell, or they're just not developing. So we'll see. We candle them again in about a week to check them. There we are with, it's going into the heads now. We've pulled off the methanol. And we're going to show you how that burns, but we've got to go into a dark room. Here goes nothing.
You saw this in the last shot. And this is as it just came out, so it should be burning.
It should light.
Doesn't want to light.
What the heck? Okay. Why?
Oh, there it is. It's on the lighter.
And you... Huh?
Yeah, it was on the lighter. Just, what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of this on the Kleenex. And we'll see.
It's not really. It's just getting the impurities from the Kleenex. That's the problem.
Yeah. Push that down there. Now it's warmed up, and that is methanol,
There we go. That blue flame.
the blue flame.
The yellow is the impurities with the Kleenex.
Ooh, nice and warm too.
It should be, I would think. The stuff you do not want to drink, and this is what sometimes ends up in poorly made alcohol that makes you quite ill.
And blind.
Well, if you get enough of it,
Mhm.
I guess.
And ironically, the cure for drinking methanol to prevent yourself from going blind is ethanol. Bizarre, but yeah, it was a
Corn alcohol.
yeah.
Okay.
Fill up a little more, and we'll have something to dump in here and see exactly what our percentages are running. Yeah, anything below 12% seems to throw the flavor. Series of esters that just aren't the most flavorful. Let's see what we have here. Aha, there. Currently 34. 34. Testing the volume, or the percentage, on the first run, and that's
What would you say we've gotten there? 2.5 gallons? 2 for sure.
2 definitely.
2 for sure.
and that's out of a
5-gallon batch.
well, five
5-ish.
5 imperial. So
Ah, the big gallons.
yeah, that's a little over 6 Christian. And our proof total on this, I'll give it to percentage for everyone, is at 45.
Ah, nice
So,
average to start off with.
Not a bad yield.
That's first run.
Yeah.
And this will get a second cleanup run through the still, for which we will divide out the heads, hearts, and tails for mixing later. Back later when this is ready to go.
So we've finished our run. We got 3 jars, 3 percentages, 85, 75, and 45%. The nice thing, if you do a lot of your own herbal medicine and you do tinctures, the 85% is good for extraction of a lot of the botanicals there, and it's a lot cheaper than Everclear. I'd say our total yield for everything was looks like about 1.5 gallons altogether.
No, it wasn't, dear.
Wasn't?
Those jars are half gallons.
Ah,
So no, It's not a total of 1.5 gallons between the three.
Oh, okay.
So we'll stop this for a second. Are our jars. Get that in a little closer to show you. There's an 85. We brought them up not quite full so that we can do some blending with them. And a 75 and the 45. So our plan is to do 1 jar of whiskey, 1 jar of brandy, a cherry brandy, and a jar of homemade kahlua. Now the kahlua we were going to mix in, like the syrup that I've already mixed up, we were going to mix into a 75% alcohol, which is what the middle jar ended up turning out to be. So what we could do is just directly mix those. We don't have to do any, just diluting of that jar. And the other two we will work to blend because we have oak chips toasted. Grab that bag there, dear.
All right. There we go.
We have these oak chips that were toasted the last time we made some. 280 Fahrenheit, give or take a little bit, our stove isn't exact. 25 to 27 minutes on an open foil. And that gives you some sweet flavors like a bit of a vanilla and, some of the nicer flavors instead of the really tannic and the real acrid stuff. We have a chart that we've printed off. And here's our kahlua syrup made from a very strong coffee and a lot of brown sugar and simmered right down. So we will get to mixing that and check the results after. A bit of this at a time. About a cup, I think, to get it in there. So I'll add a cup of this to the syrup because it did sort of crystallize on the bottom again while it cooled off overnight. So then I can stir up the syrup a bit to get it loosened up. We found that last time using 85% and a demerara of sugar for part of the syrup, it just did not want to dissolve the sugar enough. So we ended up having to add more coffee. You don't want to just add water because then the flavor gets too washed out with kahlua. But other than that, it did kind of turn out okay for the first time making something like that. But we can get this loosened up some with the first bit of the alcohol. There's a neat back there tucked against the wall.
I see. There we go.
The recipe also calls for some vanilla and a vanilla bean. We'll need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Another cup out of here, just so that I know I have room in the jar. Where's that can? That is really full. may need to do is put this all in a big jar or a big bowl. Well, as you could see when I was pouring that, it doesn't like to mix that sugar into the alcohol. So we could possibly end up adding water again over time. This is supposed to age for 3 weeks and shake it usually once or twice a day. So if we find that that's not mixing in, we will add a little bit more of that coffee. I'm a little bit stubborn. Hopefully I can get it mixed up though. 2 jars. You can see that was a bit of a messy proposition, but such things happen. Get this cleaned up a bit. Then we will blend the other two to where we want them. Here we go.
Very lucky on that one.
Yeah. He dropped the hydrometer. You don't want to drop the hydrometer. They're made of glass. Very thin glass.
Mm-hmm. Time to buy a lottery ticket and survive.
Maybe you ran out of luck on that one. Anyhow, this is how we are going to blend these. I'm going to add from the higher one to the lower one until we get the lower one up to the 60% we're looking for.
And we'll, oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you figure we'll need?
Up there, I think.
1 cup.
Hmm?
Bring it up to 60 from 45.
Yep, should do it.
Okay. I'm just going to do a half. So that. We need another cup to pour some of this into.
We
This is
do.
still warm.
So no.
That should do it.
All right, it's airborne. Waterborne?
And what do we have? Ah, we read. Of course, it wants to turn away. Ooh, that still says 45. For some weird reason.
Hmm.
Huh.
Odd. All right. Well,
Yeah, that should have added way better than that. Throw that in. This. Keep mixing until you get it.
mhm.
Hold that. Put the other half cup in.
Now you can dump it back into the cup.
Yeah.
We have flight.
At what
About.
percentage? We are 50%.
Mm-hmm.
We got added, not that much. So pour you back.
You wanted 55 on this?
60. I want to do an even 60 on both of them.
Ah, okay.
Then we'll cut them to where we want them later.
So probably.
So another cup anyway.
Yeah, for
If
sure.
we're under 60 for the brandy, that's fine.
All right.
Because we were 55 last time and it was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
If we put syrup in.
Yeah,
That just gives me room for the syrup in there too, I think.
exactly. All
What
right.
I'm going to do, give that a good shaking up. There. That'll mix it up. Smells good.
A little bit spilled on the table. It might dissolve it.
Might not have a table left.
No, but it'll be very clean.
Of 55. Okay, there isn't any more room in there if we want to put the syrup in
No.
later.
We'll leave it in
Oh,
the
I think
jar.
we'll leave it at 55 then.
I guess we'll have to.
It worked fine last time with that.
Okay, send that back here.
Okay, we can put our oat chips in this. Man, we don't need a lot. A handful is all I used last time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it did pull all the tannins out too, so.
No, it didn't because we had the lower concentration,
Well, and you got the flavor.
right?
So
We
that's-
did. That was really good. There we go. Our handful of oat chips for in the brandy. I can mark that as being 55% now. Make sure that's on so the angels don't get such a share. There. 55%. Now get this down to about 60 with a pure water.
I think so, yeah.
That was 1 cup.
All right. Let's see how that reads.
Ooh, that still says 70.
Well, 68.
68, 70. Really? Picky, picky.
Iceberg, Greenberg, Steinberg, what's in a name?
So that brought it down to that. So half cup of water, do you think?
should bring it
I'll go
right
by.
about there. Yeah, half,
Should
just a
about-
half cup.
Yeah, I don't want to bring it down too far. I want to dilute it later. Got it properly shaken up.
Make a wish.
Oh, you blow your own candles out with this stuff. Blow a safe.
Start a fire. All right. All right, it's off the bottom.
Bottom, and it is 63.
Yeah, 60.
About 62 or 63.
2 ounces. if
Oh,
that.
we.
Unless
I
you-
don't know. We could fiddle, or we could just leave it.
I think we should just leave it.
We'll leave it at 62, and we will get it down to where we want it later. Once it's done chipping, which will take about 3 weeks, I think. Do you think? Yeah, I think 3 weeks.
Yeah, for this oak, should.
Because we're not doing a lot of chips in there. A nice handful in there, maybe a bit more than the brandy.
Yeah, for the whiskey, yeah.
Yeah.
Get that flavor.
Find some more. Really nice oaky flavor, and then later we will add our vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
It does add that flavor. Yeah. There we go.
And there's Comet singing. Just hear him.
Well, that constitutes doing a distilling run and showing you some candling of eggs. I hope everybody enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Gunsmithing coming soon. I promise.
Well, we'll
I guess
just,
that's about, yeah. Today's events, if you're stuck in with a blizzard, well, you might as well make it entertaining.
Alrighty. Glad you stopped by, and hope you keep watching for our next videos.